Hey everyone, before we begin today's episode, I want to apologize for any technical difficulties we have with the audio. This is about my fourth or fifth time recording this episode and it just keeps messing up. So I'm just going to do it one last time and we'll just get through this together. I apologize, but thanks for listening. Enjoy today's episode. 3, 2, 1, yeah! Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast, Still You, where we peel back the layers of our personality like an emotional onion. Sometimes it makes you cry, sometimes it makes you laugh, and sometimes you wonder, why does my onion have a Wi-Fi signal and productivity app? Yeah, that's why we're here, because we're talking about somebody who would do that. I am your host, Caitlin, your Enneagram hype woman, truth teller, tough love bestie, all the things. And today we're diving into a type that hustles so much harder than a Starbucks barista on a Monday morning at 7 a.m. Yes, we're talking about our Enneagram Type Threes, snappies, our achievers, our chameleons of the Enneagram. And as you heard at the beginning of the episode, this is like the 8th time I've done this recording, so which was earlier this morning. So if you are, and I say all that because if you're listening to this episode while relaxing with an adult beverage like I am, today's drinking game is take a sip every time I say the word achievements or achieving because you got to pace yourself. It's going to be a lot. I'll have to make up for it later because I got to be coherent for this whole episode. So I'm sorry, but let's take a sip. Cheers. Happy Friday. Yes, drink responsibly. I swear that was the first sip. Anyway, who are our beautiful, lovely type threes by the end of this recording? Because I've done it so many times. I'm going to be like, I know this from top to bottom, like word for word. Anyway, our type threes are success oriented, image conscious, they're adaptable, ambitious, magnetic. They live also in that heart feeling triad. If you're still unfamiliar with the triads, go back a couple episodes where we break that down and what it is so you can follow along a little bit better. But the heart triad is our twos, threes, and fours. And twos focus on relationships, and fours focus on authenticity, while threes focus on achievement and presentation. And their unspoken inner driver to be valued and accepted for what they achieve and how they appear. So, for example, we're going to do a little Valley Girl right now. This is my Valley Girl impression. Oop. If you ask a three how they're doing, you might get something like, oh, just finished a half marathon this morning and crushed a work presentation and meal prep for the week. What about you? That was so bad. But you're just standing there thinking like, I brushed my hair, shut the fuck up. But I really do love my three friends, not only three friends, my type three friends. They are hilarious to me. They'll just go on and brag about their 5 a.m. wake up call and doing the 10-mile run before everyone else opens their eyes. And I'm just thinking like it's a badge of honor. And I'm just like, yo, you gotta be tired and thinking like how little they actually have to do all that. But you know what? This is the curse of the Enneagram. It gives you this x-ray vision into motivations, and it's more of a blessing, I would say. It's amazing. But when threes are thriving, they can achieve drink. No, I'll wait on that, but you got that. They can achieve extraordinary success in whatever they focus on. And people admire them because they really, truly do shine. And they are what is known as the stars of human nature, the stars of the Enneagram. And wouldn't you love that? So think of like your classic motivational speaker. Yes, you're thinking of him. Tony Robbins. He's definitely a type three. Even though I'm pretty sure we canceled him, it's just still a good example. But they are excellent motivators and really love helping others achieve great things. Sorry for that siren driving by. We're going to be out of here in a couple of weeks, so The audio is going to get much better. And hopefully I can figure out this technical difficulty. Wow, somebody's really in trouble. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's like 8 of them right now. But all right, moving on. So yes, they are excellent motivators and really do love helping people achieve amazing things. And they embody a best in a culture. And other people are able to see their hopes and their dreams mirrored in them, even if they can't see it for themselves. And if you haven't gathered, threes make sure that their lives are a success. And that can be defined by their families, their cultures, religions, or whatever social sphere that they're in. And whatever that looks like, they're going to go after it. They're just not going to be a nobody in their communities. And to do this, they learn to be goal oriented, much like, yes, me, our eights. But eights are goal oriented for a different motivation, which is control and control. That's not always a negative thing, I promise. But threes achieve and perform in ways that will get them the praise and positive attention that they're looking for. And yes, that means as children, they learned how to do this by what their parents valued and praised. And so threes put their time and energy into whatever that was. And they've learned to develop whatever it is about themselves that's attractive or potentially impressive to the world around them. And of course, disclaimer, everyone likes, needs, loves affirmation and attention and praise, but threes take this universal human need and make it their operating system. They want success because they it's going to sound so like they fear fading into worthlessness without constant accomplishments to validate them. They just feel invisible. And so they want success because they're afraid of disappearing into the chasm of emptiness and worthlessness. Like, what a black hole. But remember, our heart triads, our twos, threes, and fours, they all deal with worthlessness and self worth in their own ways. But this is the threes version. So without increased attention and feelings of accomplishments that success brings, threes fear that they're nobody and that they have no value. So what do? They achieve. I'll take a sip at that one. Hence why they really do love to brag about their 3 a.m. morning routine. Like, no one cares. Sorry. Little tough love for you. Anyway, the downside, yes, there's a downside. In this relentless chase for that validation, they can lose themselves. They become so focused on the image that they present that they forget their own real desires or their own real feelings. It's like that stereotypical like story or that we've heard in certain communities and cultures that the parents put so much focus on the child to become this master violinist by the age of 6 that when they start to become their own adults, they like admit that they hate playing and they never liked it, never wanted to do it. It was always because of mom and dad, but that was the way that they received praise and attention, and their whole family's identity was built around it. And it comes like crashing down. Like, that's a pretty common story we've heard. So, what threes do, they put their feelings into a box so they can act and perform and just get things done. So, to them, emotions just slow down the hustle, and instead, they substitute feelings with strategy and action. And the other example I can see with type threes, who knows if the people who do this are type three, but you know the story, the age old story of the husband or the wife just completely overturning their life, like just doing a complete 180, 360, whichever one it is. I'm not good at math, but they just do the whole thing and just blow up their life because they had this like come to Jesus moment or realize that they're only living their life for others and not themselves, and that they've created this reality that they don't like. And because they were chasing that validation and the feelings of needing to be worthwhile, um, I think that would be a very three thing to do, perhaps. Correct me if you think I'm wrong. But I'm not that every type three would do that, but I could see somebody getting to that point. But anyway, type threes are in the middle of that feeling triad, which those middle numbers are tricky, a tricky spot to be in because as we remember, these middle numbers, they have to deal with the inside and outside forces that they're trying to defend themselves against. But being in this heart triad, they're just not known as big feelers. Rather, they're people of action and achievement. So, because of those inside and outside forces, it makes sense that they can become numb or asleep to their emotions and their feelings, which we'll talk about here in a second. It makes perfect sense. So, yeah, just come to believe that emotions just get in the way of their achievements. But let's dive into it a little bit more. So, if it sounds like I'm going really fast, it's because I've done this a couple of times already, and I apologize. I'll slow it down. But anyway, moving on. The core blueprint of our threes. What is their core desire if you haven't gathered that already? It is to feel valuable, admired, and worthwhile. Their core fear? Yep, that's the opposite. Being worthless, invisible, or just seen as a failure. And their core weakness is vanity. So they're presenting the only most polished, admirable versions of themselves. Yet at the same time, what they're longing for is for someone to just love them for just being them. So their super ego message is you are good or okay as long as you are successful and others think well of you. And there's a paradox there, which is threes achieve so much, but deep down they wonder, do you love me or just my highlight reel? And speaking of highlight reels, it's my very tacky segue into the light side of the three, who they are in their truest essence. So when threes are in a healthy space, they're like that TED talk that actually inspires you to take action and to do something versus the ones that just make you feel guilty about yourself and not doing more or being more. So here are the type threes superpowers. They are inspiring leaders. They don't just dream big, they execute, which just scratches that itch of my soul because I'm the same way. I really relate to threes in this workaholic kind of way. Maybe not a workaholic way, but definitely like the hustle way and execution way. They're also adaptable. I said early on, I think, who knows what I've said at this point, but the threes are the chameleons of the Enneagram. I'll just say it again. Who cares? So they're adaptable. They can walk into any situation and thrive. If you know you're a type three, or this is sounding like you might be, get into sales, seriously, or PR. We'll talk a little bit about it, but that's like the direction you really need to go into. Their next superpower is motivational forces. They see potentials in others and they just pull it out like this motivational just magician. It's beautiful. And the last one is kind of a two-parter. They have vision and action. They turn someday into it's on my calendar for next Thursday. Like, oh, babe, take me out to dinner first. Um these are just my people. The one of the bigger reasons why I love threes because like they just do that follow through. They are people of their word. Like, ugh, love it. Anyway, so the example of that would be your type three friend says to you, like, we should go to Paris someday. Oh my God. And then you're like, you check your email and you see flight confirmations in your inbox. Like, also, can we normalize having type three friends that are rich? Yes. So, healthy threes, they feel grounded, they're confident and balanced. They invest in themselves without tipping into self obsession. And they encourage others to do the same. And they encourage others to reach their highest potential, not for personal gain, but because they actually believe in people. Sorry, my voice. I've been talking nonstop. So on our Enneagram diagram, our little cult symbol, our type threes, when in health, they move toward the healthy sixes. They commit to something that is beyond themselves. And of course, this is terrifying because it means showing up without that chameleon mask and letting people see the real them. But that's where true growth happens, seriously. And they have a realistic and deeply felt appreciation for themselves and their lives, which gives them this quiet confidence. And they have that healthy space of self love, which enables them to love others freely without agenda. And threes get that investing in themselves isn't selfish, it's actually essential. Just like what we talked about last week with the type twos, a healthy type two, they understand that taking care of their own well being makes them better for everyone around them. Healthy threes are ambitious, confident, and intentional about their physical health, and they know how to pour time and money and energy into it without, again, tripping into self absorption or, yeah, narcissism. That's going to enter the picture a bit later. It's basically growth with purpose. So, not only do they invest in themselves, they can do it for others too, which is really beautiful. They push others to be their ultimate best, and they're easy motivators and helping others see how much they truly can achieve. And I also relate to this a lot because I love a good underdog and like seeing the potential in someone, and it's just dumbfounding to me because it's like, don't you see how amazing you are or the potential that you have? And they're just like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like look in the mirror, like, God, just trust me. It's like this like healthy frustration with like, just see how amazing you are. Anyway, okay. So threes and yours truly, type eights, dominate the workforce. But that's not to say no other type can climb the corporate ladder or have a successful business. Calm down. But for type threes and eights, they do have it climb those ladders and do dominate the workforce for different motivations. Okay, that's what the Enneagram is all about. Don't you forget. For eights, as we will later find out, it's more about control and control. Yeah, that's about it. There's other ones, but we'll learn more about it later. But for threes, they climb the corporate ladder and they use their people skills to advance for either worthy causes or be employed for or by companies to positively represent them. Like it's a good PR space for type threes. It's a good idea for anyone looking. And they're excellent communicators and promoters because they know how to present something in a way that is attractive and appealing or inspiring. And they can be highly effective at building morale and community spirit. And all of this, I'm sorry, I got to bring this up one more time, is a really bad, but I think hilarious example of a type three in this. It's not the best example of a healthy type three, but it's also a fictional character. But promise I'm going to stop bringing up Parks and Rec because this just reminds me of Tom Haverford. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. He is like the hype man. He's also always trying to be someone, always hustling, always talking about that he's hustling. Again, I don't think he's a healthy example, but it also reminds me of that scene where he goes to Ann Perkins' Halloween party that was like a total dud. And he walks in and he's like, did you guys all come back from the morgue or something like that? And he just completely turns it around and it turns it into like a total rave. Like that's just the best example of what I'm talking about for a type three that's a total hype man. Anyway, I'll move on. Let's keep talking about our little inspiring healthy threes and what happens when they move toward healthy sixes. So, like healthy sixes, they become more grounded and fulfilled by committing to people that and goals that reach beyond their personal successes. So their focus shifts from maintaining that perfect image to genuinely supporting something bigger and better than themselves. And it's not just about work here. When a three truly commits to another person, yeah, they can be a little bit of a what do you call it? Relationship avoidance. So it's like taking off that chameleon mask. Suddenly there's this terrifying possibility of being fully seen, flaws, quirks, all of it. And that's scary for any type, but for threes, it's especially nerve wracking because it means revealing the self that they've kept hidden behind all of those polished accomplishments. But genuine intimacy for threes is especially threatening because they have come to believe that their image and achievements are valuable and only what others want. And they feel that their authentic self is too underdeveloped and too vulnerable to be worthwhile. So, to liberate themselves, threes must let go of their belief that their value is dependent on the positive regards of others. Only then can they become more inner directed and authentic. And they have to understand that the mask needs to come off, and those untouched feelings that they buried way down deep into that emptiness that resides there, that it all must be acknowledged if there's to be growth in any capacity, if growth is to take place. But remember, we all walk through the mud and all those perceived scary things before we can get to this place. So that's also another awful segue into our shadow sides of the threes. So it's the other side of the coin. Okay, let's take a deep breath. This is the place where the drive for success can morph into something heavier. So, my little disclaimer, if you're a three, or if this is hitting home for you and you feel like you're a three, then great. We're getting somewhere with discovering what your Enneagram type is. So, yay, snaps for you. But as we move on to this next segment, I encourage you to listen with grace and understanding for yourself. It's not a time to be in denial, okay? But a time to sit back and listen with curiosity about the parts of yourself that you either don't know or have yet to acknowledge. I know that when I was reading about the awful, unhealthy sides of the type 8, it was like, I, how do I say it? It was like I was not necessarily in denial, but I was just like, I'm not like that. I would never do that. I've never done that. This is not me. But yet, when I stepped back and like looked at it with more curiosity, it's like, oh, okay. If I was born to a different family, if I had awful parents, a different religion, different culture, like if I just had a different set of cards dealt to me when I was born, then yeah, I could easily see myself having these unhealthy behaviors, so it's not just because it doesn't just because it's something you've never done doesn't mean it's not a part of your core. You've just evolved so much past all of that. So that's great. You've never tripped into like the depths of your awful, unhealthy parts, and that's great. Or maybe you can look back into your teenage or early 20s and be like, I was so bad then. I definitely was like that when I was 22 or something like that, right? So that's kind of what we need how we need to approach all of this. But yeah, so what are our what do you call it? Anti superpowers of the type 3? I still need to find a good name for that. But first off, workaholism. Yep, they're going to be burning out while smiling through it. And then they're also over identifying with success. So they're feeling like they are their achievements rather than separate from them. And they have image over authenticity. So choosing what looks good over what feels right. And the other one is emotional avoidance. They're skipping vulnerability because it just slows the hustle. And lastly, deception, even to themselves. So they're presenting a success story while ignoring the mess behind the curtain. So, a good example of this, which again, I really relate to because I've definitely done this type of thing before, but if a type 3 gets sick, instead of resting and recovering, they're still on the Zoom meeting or hosting that webinar in bed, but wearing like business attire up top while clutching their hot tea and their heating pad off the camera. Like, threes they're not faking it till they make it, they're faking it while they're making it. And also, probably posting about a productivity tip on it on Instagram or something like that. Like, so let's talk about this adaptability mask for the type threes. Again, they are chameleons. They can adapt to meet the expectations of any group, which is both their secret weapon and their kryptonite. So you have to ask yourself, am I going to use this for good or use this for evil? Okay, it's your choice. But the danger in that, they can wake up one day and realize that they've been so busy becoming who everyone needs them to be that they've lost track of who they actually are, which uh, is so sad. So it's like realizing your closet is full of all these great, fantastic clothes that are designer and blah, 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 but you can't remember buying any of them and it's actually not your style at all. So what happened? So in stress, they slide into the unhealthy nine, where they start slowing down, they're zoning out, and just filling their days with busy work and avoiding reality really at all. They may look burnout or discouraged, or even disengaged, but instead they're still daydreaming of that next big win or that next big sale, whatever it is for them. But the danger is when setbacks push them to double down on appearances or, here we go again, leaning into narcissistic patterns. We'll get into that just a tiny bit more in a second. All of this just to keep proving that there's somebody still chasing worth through accomplishments, even at the cost of authenticity. So, digging a little bit deeper into that, in when they're under increased stress, their coping mechanisms are going to start breaking down, just like with anybody, really. So, threes are highly driven and focused on their achievements, right? Drink. No, I'll wait. So, the move to nine serves as a shutdown from their relentless pursuits. They tend to blend in more, but not too much because they still got to stand out. Yes, but they still lower their profiles and move at a slower pace. And for type nines, that we'll soon learn in a future episode, they're called the sloths of the Enneagram when they're in their disintegration levels or their unhealthy levels. So this really tracks. So type threes are in jobs, relationships, or just lives that they do not want. And they don't know their true desires because they've become increasingly disassociated from their lives. And they fill it with meaningless busy work or routines, just doing anything and everything at their best to not be affected by their life, which again is another clue because that you're in a stressful period of your life, because the type nines are asleep and numb to their anger and emotions, as again we'll learn. But it's a good clue for a type three moving into these unhealthy levels or just again in a stressful period. So they start to become complacent. And as we know, threes are excellent communicators, but in stress, they become weirdly unresponsive. Um, so because threes are so driven to achieve, failures and setbacks really do hit them hard. So when that happens, they tend to retreat further into disassociation, appearing burnout, apathetic, or just disengaged. Okay. Instead of facing their problems head on, they'd rather escape into their daydreams about that next big win or sale or whatnot. This just fuels their relentless pursuit to become that somebody. Again, reinforcing the core desire. Do you remember what that was? Yes, to be worthy, loved, and valued. But this move into the unhealthy nine space, the stress really starts to pile on. Um, Workaholism ramps up and the disassociation deepens until something eventually breaks. And as they slide even further down the levels of health, they may go to extreme lengths to maintain appearances, clinging to that illusion of being accomplished. And in trying to protect their self esteem, the N word, narcissistic tendencies can start to really creep in at this point, working tirelessly, but not out of joy, but to prove their worth. Okay. I know it's hard to think about the narcissist in your life that caused a lot of pain. Um, But if you look underneath the armor, you'll see that same longing that every human has, which is to be valued. That doesn't excuse or justify their actions. They're still responsible for how they've treated you, but it does offer a roadmap as to why a three does what they do. And I don't know, that's something to chew on for a while, and maybe that can offer some consolation. But before we do move on to the next part, I really do. I have another great example of this is a great example of an unhealthy type three that I thought of the other night while I was trying to fall asleep. But have you guys seen the new Penguin on HBO? Colin Farrell played him, right? Farrell, Firth. I think I think Firth was Mr. Darcy, wasn't he? I don't know. The Irish one, the cute one. But it was an amazing depiction of a seriously unhealthy type 3. And I know the character is similar through the years of the depictions of his background and behaviors. Not that I've seen them, but I want to highlight this new one as an example because it really showcased the relationship he had with his mother, how he went to unimaginable lengths to gain her attention, approval, and validation. And there's this scene that he was presented with the truth. It's not really a spoiler, but just go watch it. It's so good. But in this scene, his mom she just breaks and she tells him off on how much she resented him, hated him, how exhausting he was, and hated him for specific reasons, which are the spoilers. But he's just really not listening. Like he's hearing it, but you can really see him wrestling with this truth. And the next thing that he says to her after all that, like it's as if he didn't even hear a word. It was crazy. He was defending her, telling her how he will make the city his, that he's going to be on top and give her everything that she deserves. He just cannot face it. He's still believing that if he accomplishes all these things, that he'll be worthy of her love. So even after that scene, he still does these horrific things to make it happen, to prove to her that he's worthy of her love and affection. But that relationship he had with his mother is a giant clue for the type 3, which we'll talk more about in a future episode with childhood patterns. But this is a quick sneak peek that the type 3 is particularly closer to their mothers and more after the approval of their mother versus their father. It's not exact, like it's not an exact science. Obviously, it's not black and white, but it's just a really common pattern that the research have seen with type threes and the relationship that they had with their parents. So stay tuned for that. Like that's gonna be really nerdy or whatever. The other thing that I think we're gonna talk about in the future too is there is research done with each type and their mental health pathologies, which I'm debating on talking about because I'm not like an actual healthcare professional, but there is research out there that I do want to talk about and just start a conversation on. And I don't know, it's just like a cool little window into people's brains and all of that. So if I can put together a good episode on those, I'll do it. But still debating. Anyway, for the type 3, what's the work here? Let the mask drop. Face the feelings that you've buried and realize that you're valuable for who you are, not just what you do. Yeah. And of course, the journey is muddy, uncomfortable, terrifying, but it's also where real freedom lives. So, in summary, with all of that, it was a lot. In the healthy levels, they're authentic, humble, and aspiring achievers. I think that's worthy of a drink. Hold on. In their average range, they're image conscious, competitive, and just a workaholic. And in their unhealthy levels, deceptive, desperate to maintain appearances, and terrified of failure. So that was a lot. Ooh, my voice is starting to cricky crack. Yeah, no, that was a lot. So like take a deep breath and really, if you need to rewind, totally. I need all the listens I can get. But yeah, really let that sink in and absorb and just kind of start connecting the dots of where it applies to your life, how it applied in the divorce that you went through, or something, or the healing that you've gone through because of your awful childhood or something like that. So this is a really great roadmap that we can start to build for you for like a better future. Oh, I'm so happy to be here with you. Anyway, our next segment, we're going to talk about the wings. Yes. Fly away, sweet chariot. So yeah, your personality accessories. These are your wings. Think of them as like your flavor profiles for your main dish. They don't change your core type. They just give it a little bit of a twist. So the three with the two wing is known as the charmer. If you're a three with a two wing, you sprinkle in this warmth, generosity, and people pleasing tendencies that the type two qualities are. You're the ultimate host, the kind who will just close a business deal and also remember that client's dog's birthday. So you blend the achiever's drive with the helper's heart. So cute, which makes you so magnetic in relationships and ridiculously persuasive. Yes, queen. But the flip side, sorry, you might overextend yourself chasing validation by being the most accomplished and the most liked person in the room. That does sound exhausting, honestly. But the three with the four wing is the professional romantic. Oh, spicy. What? No, I'm not going there with that. But hey, girl, get yours. So if you are a three with a four wing, you bring in the introspection, creativity, and depth of the type four. You're not just achieving for the sake of achievement. Now, that was a double take. Chat. But you want your success to be meaningful and uniquely yours. So you'll turn the marketing pitch into a performance or big fancy art design or just anything that's an extension of your soul. But the challenge for you here is you might wrestle with moodiness, self doubt, or the belief that you'll never quite measure up, even when everyone else is clapping for you. I've been around people like this, and I want to stop clapping and just give you a solid punch in the face so that you can like snap out of it. Like, do you hear us? We're proud of you. We love you. Yeah, you don't believe us. Like, meh. Anyway, so if you, whether your wing leans toward the connection of the two or the self expression of the four, the key is balance. Okay. Your wings are here to support your growth, not run the show. And remember, your worth isn't in well how you perform the wing role, it's in who you are when you drop the act entirely. All right. All right. Next, let's talk about how we can move forward. We've heard, we've listened, we've absorbed. Now what? We aren't here just to listen and walk away. We're here to take action, which, if you're a three, girl, proud of you already. But yeah, if we're here to like have some actionable steps. So here are some journal prompts or just like some stuff to munch on if you're driving or something like that. First off, pause before performing. Okay. Are you doing this for you or the applause? That will be a tough one to really hone in, but start practicing. Also, let people see the process. Let them see the messy drafts, not just that final cut. I relate to that. I want it to look good. But also, rest without guilt. You are not, oop, that was a burp. Excuse me. You're not a productivity machine, okay? Integrate also your 9 growth arrow. Slow down, girl. Be present. Enjoy the vacation. Like, you don't need to go on the 8-mile run before everybody wakes up. And then, sorry, I hate running, is why I'm dogging on it a lot. But just enjoy it, okay? Please. And then notice your 6 stress arrow. Like we just talked about, those are some really good cues if you are entering into a stressful period of your life or if you're currently in one. And you can use those cues, those little clues, the personal red flags, if you will, to really help dig yourself out. All right. So, according to my main resource for today's episode, The Wisdom of the Enneagram by Don Richard Riso, here are some practices you threes can use to help you develop even further. Put into action, okay? If there's anything that you take away from this episode, gosh darn it, it better be this. Start to recognize when you are turning it on for someone and when you're becoming your image and instead of speaking or acting authentically. So you may even notice that you're doing this or falling into this image when no one's around. Like, I don't blame you. But while there might not be anything wrong with the persona you've constructed, and you may even want to use it from time to time, and that's okay. Like in that sales meeting, girl, I get it. But awareness alone will give you the ability to choose when to employ it. So without awareness, you serve your image. So like us, eights, woohoo, and fellow ones, you really could benefit from giving yourself a break, okay? Once in a while. Come on. I know that sounds like it's against one of your personal 10 commandments, but please trust me. As a 3, you are not the quickest, all right, at noticing that you're getting too stressed. And sometimes it takes a major health crisis or relationship blow up to get you to notice that you're overextending yourself. So, what you got to do is stop and take deep breaths throughout the day and just check in with yourself. I promise you it'll get easier over time. Just start practicing. Are you asking yourself, like, if you're anxious, lonely, angry, overwhelmed, whatever it is, these breaks, again, will feel like they're just slowing you down. But in the long run, they will help you do so much to maintain your emotional and physical well being and actually help you accomplish your tasks or goals with greater ease. Do I have to say that louder? That sounds nice, right? When are you going to start listening to me? Anyway, lastly, 3s can greatly benefit from creativity, especially when it's just for you and no one else is watching or don't need to post it on Instagram. So you can do anything like painting, pottery, drawing, whatever. Pick one and find out and have fun finding out what you like. These creative outlets can help you get into greater touch with your feelings and bring you into greater alignment. And along these same lines, 3s would really benefit from being a part of something where you're of service or a part of a team, not the head of it, though. All right. You're a team, but learning to cooperate and work with others for a larger cause, like volunteering or at a hospital or animal shelter, you will see how what doing this will do for how you feel about yourself and the tremendous self-worth that you can create for yourself. All right. So, last closing arguments. If you don't believe me already, 3s are just not the go getters, man. They are the dreamers who bring their visions to life. They show us that ambition can be a beautiful thing, even when or especially when it's rooted in truth. So, my dear friends, my dear 3s, remember this: your worth isn't tied to your to-do list. You're valuable even when the hustle stops. And I really believe that pop culture has cranked up this idea of value, telling us that if you don't own that designer bag or jet off to Mallorca or have that trophy wife or just some wildly successful career, you're somehow less than. And it sells this belief that our self-worth comes from those trophies or accomplishments. But when you step back and see the bigger picture, you can just see how those are just shiny substitutes for what value actually is. And your real worth, you ask, it was there before you achieved anything, man. Before you checked that single box, it's there when you're resting, when you're laughing with yourself, and when you're doing something no one else will ever applaud. And modern life makes it easy to forget that, to trade our birthright for the illusion of applause. But remember this: you cannot be without value. You can only forget that it's there. So, my beautiful type 3s, you are more than your titles, more than your metrics, more than that highlight reel. You're a walking reminder of the greatness of spirit, the richness of being human, and the wonder of a life truly fully lived. We don't love you for what you do, we love you for who you are. And that is more than enough. Amen. Oh my God. Amen. So that's today's episode, beautiful babes. Thanks for being here. Seriously, if you are a type 3, you know your girl's hustling a little bit to make this my full-time gig. So share it with a friend, rate, review, the whole deal. And as a reminder, today's resources are in the show notes, and there you can find a link that you'll have to copy and paste into the browser. But it's my Calendly link if you want to do a one-on-one session with me, whether it's to find out what your type is or dig deeper into your type. And it's going to be recorded for future episodes, and it can be anonymous if you choose to. But anyway, I love you all. Until next time, stay grounded, stay super weird, and don't stop being you. This is the Still You podcast. Peace out.